Most professional stories don't land, and it's not because people don't care. It's because they generally sound like a list of facts, and facts don't move people, but stories do. So if your message feels flat, it's probably not that you're lacking skills or experience or insight or leadership or even storytelling skills, or it's not any of those things. It's not a problem with you, it's how you're packaging it. And today we fix that. We're also going to check my volume here, make sure everything is working. I think that'll be a little bit better. We had a bit of a problem with the microphone. And we're good. Go ahead and let me know in the chats if you can see and hear me. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're talking about stories, but not Hollywood fanciful stories, although they can be really fun. We are talking about professional stories, not only why they're important, why they're so great, but how to do it effectively without pain, sweat, or puking in your purse. Da-da-da! That's what we're talking about today. And as the title slide shows, what we're talking about is tell me a story. Instantly turn your experience into influence because that's what we want. This event today is for professionals, smart people who are visible but not memorable. Maybe you speak in meetings, you post online, you share updates, but it's like talking into the void. People don't repeat what you say. It doesn't land, it doesn't connect. And there is a gap. There's a gap between what you think you're putting out, what value you're bringing into every discussion, into every table that you're sitting at, what you're putting on the table, the value you bring, and what people perceive. So, this is about the gap between your actual value and your perceived value. And today we're going to close that with story. Hi, if we haven't met before, I'm Elizabeth. And for years, I've watched brilliant professionals, colleagues, friends, loved ones, and even some competitors, people I'm not looking to help support. I've seen people, so many people, miss out on opportunities because of that gap, the gap between the value they bring and how they talk about it or don't talk about it, right? So it's about closing that gap. And I've made it my mission to figure out how to do it and to show good people how to speak up and increase their impact. That's what we're talking about today. It's about showing up in the game of life and making a difference. So let's get into it. I'm just going to do a quick check around. If you can see and hear me, go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know. I can't see your name unless you make a comment. So please do let me know you're here. I'd love to say hi to you personally and we can like high five each other. I'd love that. I also have adjusted this so that if you're watching on the mobile, there'll be a mobile size and I've made it so that you can see the full screen. And if you're watching on a desktop or an iPad, then you can see laptop. Depending on the size of your screen, it should be adjusted. I would love some feedback on that if you're watching. So what we want to talk about today is, again, that gap between your perceived value, the gap between your true value and your perceived value and closing that gap so people can see what you're really bringing to the table. But first, I want to tell you about my client. I remember it. Her palms were sweaty, her hands were shaking. It's like she was in a meeting. She couldn't even finish a sentence before she was interrupted. She had been stuck in the same role for 7 years and she was ready. She was more than ready for a promotion. She had been trying and waiting and hoping and working harder. That's what we're taught, right? Work harder, it'll pay off. She had been doing that for 7 years, but nothing. She was even starting to question if she was leadership material. And then she had kind of her light bulb moment and realized her ideas were never the problem. Her leadership skills were never the problem. It was all about how her ideas, how her instructions, how her guidance and leadership was landing. The way she spoke, the way she presented, it was diluting her value before people even had a chance to hear her ideas. So we started working together. And in the first week, people noticed. In 3 weeks, she was leading the project. And after 10 weeks, she was promoted to director. It was awesome. But people don't promote potential, they promote trust. It was the gap between the value she was bringing and perceived value. Because when your voice, your story, and your presence align, you don't have to fight for a seat. You earn the room and the opportunity. Sounds good, right? And I am so proud of her, absolutely proud of her. But this isn't just a great story. This is an example of a stick story, and that's the framework we're going to talk about today so that you can create your own stick stories. I'm going to show you the first slide. We're going to talk about stories. Let's talk about first. Often when I'm working with clients, I say, "Tell me your story," or "Let's put a story in here." When we're giving speeches or presentations, practicing for job interviews, tell me a story about this. And generally, most people give me a list of facts. And there's two ways to communicate. You can give a list of facts, which will inform, give me information, which is great, or tell me a story to transform the way I see things, transform my thinking. And that's what we want to do to directly increase your impact. So most people stay in this inform mode. So let's look at the slide here. And we're looking at things that both facts and story have in common. So they both have information. They both talk about events. They're both true. If you're watching in the chat, I see some chat here. Thank you for the opportunity. I have someone on LinkedIn now. It's not giving me the name, so I'm going to refresh my screen and see if it gives me your name so I can say hi to you specifically. And while you're watching, you can also think about what else do a list of facts and a story have in common? I gave 3 to start. Mohammed. Yes, welcome. So glad you're here. So, a list of facts and a story. We're talking about the difference between those two. So, yeah, they're true. In this case, they're about you. They're talking about events, talking about information, maybe even giving some data, some details about change. Okay. So, those are what these two things have in common. But let's take a deeper look and look at what they have different. So, when we're looking at a list of facts, generally they're flat. There's no tension. It's just list like and unfortunately forgettable. This is why most professional stories don't land. Whereas a story, there's going to be movement, tension, change, emotional shift. That's what we're looking at today to help change because it helps people remember your story. And the key fact here is that facts are great and they're used to inform, but a story is used to transform. So let's talk about the stick framework. This is a framework, and I will give you the infographic afterwards so you can have this on your own. I'm pulling out pieces of the infographic, the stick letters there. You can see that I'm going to walk with you through this. And the thing we need to remember when talking about the stick framework is a sticky story, one that sticks in people's brains, has 3 traits. It's simple enough to repeat. So the story I told you earlier that I said was a stick story about my client, it's true, it's informational, but it's transformational, right? You felt that shift. Simple enough to repeat. If I pressured you right now, you could probably repeat it. It's human enough to feel. And 3, it's specific enough to believe. In short, if it's too polished, it dies. If it sounds like I have a script memorized and I'm repeating to you, it's not going to work as well. Or if it's too vague and I just say, oh, maybe there was one person one time, it disappears. It doesn't hit you in the same way. So we want to really keep these core details in mind and move into the stick framework. A strong professional story shouldn't be long. In this case, for today's exercise, I'm going to encourage you to aim for 2 minutes. Like my story I gave earlier about my client, 2 minutes. It was planned, it was structured, and here is the structure I want you to use. Stick, because it's going to stick in people's brains. And we start with the situation. That's the S of stick. Now, let me just double check the chats here. Hello. Only 7. I don't really know how to spell. Oh, I'm 7 years old. Well, hello and welcome. I see you're on YouTube, and today we're talking about stories. Do you like stories? This is a great way to tell a story. This is mainly for professional, but you know what? You can probably use it in school too. I have an 8-year-old daughter, so I'll ask her what she thinks about that. And thanks for listening. It looks like Sawar say love football. Yes. So let's get into the framework. Let's just dive right into this. The stick framework. You start with the S of stick. This means we're going to set the scene fast. No background overload, just enough details so we can get into the story and feel the tension. Think about the story I told about my client. I didn't tell you what position she was in. I didn't tell you which company, which role, how many people, where she was, what she was talking about, because it doesn't matter. For this story, it doesn't matter. For her life, it matters. But for this story, it doesn't matter. So basically, I set the scene by saying her palms were sweaty, she was nervous, and she was being interrupted. So she couldn't even finish her sentence. So that's the setting that I give you right from the start. T, the next letter in stick, is about tension. For this part of the story, so the next 1 or 2 sentences, because it's only 2 minutes, I want you to tell me what's at risk, what feels stuck, what's unclear, what's uncomfortable. We want to build tension. Why? If there's no tension, there's no story, there's no movement. And suddenly we're back at a list of facts. This is the piece, the core piece that most people miss. And if we think about it this way, if there's no tension, no reason to listen. In this case, I told you she was stuck in the same role for 7 years. Like, we can feel that. She wants promotion. And worst of all, she was starting to question herself and her leadership skills. That is the T. That is the tension I want you to feel in the story. The next section is I, STI, insight. What did you realize? What was the big aha moment? That's the I. Not what you learned later, not what you changed or did, but what clicked? What was that spark? What was your turning point? And in the story I gave, I said it was not her ideas, it was not her skills, it was not her experience. They were all good. The problem was the gap in communication. That was the problem that needed to be fixed between her real value and the perceived value, how people saw her. 1 sentence. Maximum 2. The next letter in stick, STIC, change. What did you do differently after that insight? In this case, I said we worked together. So she came to me, she approached me with this problem, with the situation, and then I talked about the changes that we made, that she made, the baby steps in the next 10 weeks that we worked together. And I gave some results, some excitement, started building momentum in the story. Now, it may feel like I'm going through this hyper quickly, and you're not wrong, but I have so much I want to give you today, and you will get the PDF as soon as this is over. So stick with me. Let's jump into it. The last one in the stick story. So after you've set the situation, the tension, had the insight, and started to talk about the change, this is the key moment. This is the part most people miss, and it breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. This is the one line you want to do to connect the dots for your listener. Basically, tell them why you're telling the story. What is the point? What is the meaning? And the way I think about it to help my clients create this part of the story is if your listeners only remember one line, what should it be? This is your main message, the reason you're telling the story in the first place. And please, 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 please don't expect people to connect the dots on their own, because I've done tests with this and you'll be surprised at how many different meanings people can come up with. In fact, I bet if I did that right now and quizzed you all what you think the meaning of that story is, I'd probably get just as many answers, different answers, as there are people answering the question. That's why I highly recommend you tell the key message. Tie it up in a bow and make it easier for your listeners to draw the same conclusion that you do. That's the story spine, the thing that holds it together. In my case of the story I told earlier, I said people don't act on potential. And I talked about the real value versus the perceived value and the gap that's there. And I said that if your voice, your story, and your presence align, doors and opportunities open. That's the main message. And if you noticed when I made that key statement, I didn't say anything about the main character in my story. It's a separate tagline or key message that it has nothing to do or is not dependent on the story. It can stand on its own. And if I give you a key message right now, what I want you to know, if you remember nothing else from today's presentation or today's talk, facts inform, stories transform, and the stick framework makes them unforgettable. Keep your story 2 minutes, not 20. So when you want to use this, do you want to use this? I should ask in the comments. For those of you who are listening live, hi, I see you. I can see the numbers coming in. I have some people listening live. I also know some of you are watching on the replay. If you're listening live or watching on the replay, tell me, like, are you excited about this? Do you think this is something you would use? Are you like excited to try this? Dun, dun, dun. You have to tell me, because I am waiting for that. I need to know that you want this so I can give it to you and make it easier for you. I have to warn you though, we can't pretend that this will come magically. If you just passively watch this video and then you're like, ta-da, I can do it. It's not going to work. Not going to work, especially not the first time. We have to build it. We have to practice it. And how I guide my clients to build it, I'm about to show you. I'm going to reveal that right now. Ta-da! We build it backwards. What? It looks complicated, but don't worry, I've got you. In fact, I'm opening up the Skool platform, which is a place where I meet with my clients to have an interactive video, to work together and talk. So I'm going to open that up for you. You can use that link to join, and we will build this together right now, today, because it takes action, and I'm here for you. Oh dear, something is happening. Okay, I think we have it. Let me just double check. Yeah, we got it. We're good. We're good. Everything's snazzy. Oh, this one's not. Facebook is struggling. I'm trying Facebook because I usually do Instagram and Instagram nicely with me. So if you have a preferred channel, do let me know and we'll make sure that I meet you there. And I do have a preferred channel. Get into my Skool platform. That's what's really important. There, I have a 2-week boot camp, Invisible to Irresistible, where we work through all of this and we get really clear about what it takes to make that shift from invisible to irresistible. We realize that when people over explain, they lose attention and authority. But when they anchor into one clear idea, like the stick story with the key message, they gain it. And that's what we want because it's not about being louder or more impressive, more fancy, or turning into someone else. It's about being you, just more you, without all the extra distractions. We wipe them away and putting the focus on the listener, who you're speaking with, and making it easy for them to get it. I want to unpack exactly why this works. We want to dig into the science and the psychology behind why the stick story works. It engages emotions, not just information, right? So we're dealing on that second layer. It builds trust and credibility. Hold on one second. Oops, I skipped one. My goodness. My goodness. Okay. It creates clarity and understanding. It builds trust and credibility. And most important, it makes your message, especially your key message, the one you want people to remember, it makes your message unforgettable. There we go. We switch sides. Whew. Please remember your story is not about performance. It's not about jazz hands. It's not about you being funny or clever or impressive. It's about your audience and transforming that connection that you have, transforming the way they see you from your perceived value to your actual value, or changing their thinking about the topic or issue that you presented. So, again, we have just a few minutes left here. I'm going to offer you something very special. Very special. I'm offering a 30-minute, a 30-minute free work session. 30 minutes with me for free. Let me get into this mode so you can see me and you can know what I'm talking about. I'm offering it for free right now inside the Skool platform. And what I want you to do is bring your real experience, bring the real you, and we will write a stick story together. I'll take you through the process, give you the steps, and then you can tell it to me live. No polishing, no overthinking, just structure and clarity, because facts inform, but stories transform. And in business and in life, transformation is what people remember, repeat, and trust. That's what I want for you. So join me in the live session just after this and practice your stick story. And I'm going to pull the slide up again so I can show you this is, yeah, inside the Irresistible Academy, which is my platform, my classroom on Skool. There's so many good things on there. And there is the website address. I put it into the comments, but in case you didn't get it, I'm going to put it there right now again. Are you blocking my links? Don't block my links because I will go through, find my people, and I will put them in there by hand if that's what it takes. Because this is important. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, I see what the problem is. Okay, one second. Excellent. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Thank you for being present. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, football lover. And thank you to my other guests that I can see you're here. I see you, but I don't know your name. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, your attention. And now join me in Skool. And I'm going to, all the links went through. Excellent. Good news, good news. So I will join you in Skool in 3 minutes. Just 3 minutes. You get a free session with me, live, interactive, and real. And I'll see you there. Ciao.